Coach Sweeney told Cade, "You are Batman." We'll talk about it right here on Locked on Clemson.
You are Locked on Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Tiger fans? Morgan Thomas here, Clemson fan, Clemson grad, host and producer of Locked on Clemson, part-time host and producer over on 105.5 FM, The Roar. Thank you so much for making Locked on Clemson your first listen of today. We are part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. And if you are an everydayer, we welcome you in and we salute you. Thank you so much for hanging with us. You know how we do it here. Exclusive Clemson content Monday through Friday, every single week. And if you're new to the show, well, welcome in. Hope you enjoy it. Hit that like and subscribe button so you never miss another episode. We have a lot to get into, continuing to get ready for that Boston College game, but also talking back to how Clemson was able to finally get their first ACC win. And some of the methods that Dabo Swinney used, and some people may call it corny or cheesy, but maybe, just maybe, it was effective. Dabo told Cade, "You are Batman," and gave him a note saying so. Was that something that could help change the trajectory of the entire season? You know, when you look at teamrankings.com, Clemson is on pace to be a 6-6 team or a 7-5 team. 8-4 statistically is more difficult for Clemson. 9-3 would be, I think, about a 5% chance to go 9-3, which means that you win out the rest of the season. So it's going to be difficult to be perfect for the rest of the season, but you don't have to be perfect to win games. You just have to find ways to win through the imperfections. Clemson hasn't been the best at that, for sure. They haven't really steamed themselves, and so that's why Dabo Swinney chose Batman, which I love Batman. I grew up kind of a Spider-Man guy as a kid, but as I got older, I liked Batman even more as well because, well, he's rich. Why wouldn't you want Batman? But the symbolism behind it really was about rediscovering their identity. They know that they have been knocked down. They were kind of down for the count. Fighting out of a 1-3 start was going to be and is going to be a difficult challenge for any team. They have to latch onto something. And I said, you know, they needed each other. They needed to rally around their brothers to their left and to their right and their leaders. But it's also good to have a symbol, you know, to fight for something, to have some sort of representation of what you can be. You know, remember how back in the day, Brian Dawkins used to use, you know, Weapon X and Wolverine in that case, and he used to like channel that energy. Well, maybe this team can do that. Remember how the old teams used to do the Power Rangers and the Avengers? Maybe, just maybe, Batman is this team's identity figure that they can rally around. And if they can rally around it and find some sort of peace and direction and motivation out of that and faith to move forward, then maybe, just maybe, it will work, you know? Will the idea stick with everyone? Probably not. I mean, some people will probably say it's not really working for them, or it's just Dabo being Dabo. But Wade Wood has talked about it. TJ Parker talked about it. Tristan Smith mentioned it as well. So it obviously resonated with more than just one player on both sides of the ball. And it could be a good reset for the team, albeit, you know, kind of cheesy. Maybe not just something that's a one-liner. And it's setting up good for them too, their opponents. We know this. We have to admit this, that the Tar Heels are a garbage team and possibly thinking about getting rid of their coach now and allowing him to, and buying him out of his contract and allowing him to do something else because of just how in shambles the culture is. And it's a warning for other universities that, just hiring an NFL coach is not a quick fix. And also a warning that heavy transfer portal usage is also not a quick fix either. Dabo's leadership and culture is in the right spot. As Dabo mentioned, the program is where you want it to be. The mentality was not where you wanted it to be. He wants Clemson to remember who they are. We talked about it. Clemson hasn't looked like who they are, who we thought they'd be. A 28-point win over the Tar Heels with no turnovers and some really solid energy on both sides of the ball and physicality. You got to like. So I believe it is a step in the right direction. It's a Dabo thing to kind of think of stories like this, like Batman, to kind of think of symbols. Cheesy, corny, yeah, sure. But for the most part in his career, has it not been effective? You can kind of start to feel it with this team too. They were down and out. They were kind of in a low spot in the valley. But as Dabo mentioned, the valley's where the ground is fertile. Maybe this team can find its identity again and move forward. And we know that they have weapons. It really pushes me back to Garrett Riley. Garrett Riley has a difficult job because the offensive line has gotten worse. Cade Klubnik, in response to the offensive line's inconsistencies, has gotten worse. Even, I think, his worst showing of all. Even back, when he was a brand new player on the team, a brand new starter, is what I'm trying to say. But so it's hard to game plan what you're going to do when you have no trust in your offensive line and your quarterback together to really put anything together that would be a cohesive unit. Those two have to get on the same page. The offensive line has to keep it simple and basic and manageable for their group so that they can all have more success. What they were doing at the beginning of the season was obviously too much. So they've got to tone it back. Cade Klubnik's got to sit in the pocket, and if he has to, take some sacks. He can't keep scrambling around too much. And he definitely can't drop back a bunch. So they have to understand that they need to be consistent, the quarterback and the offensive line, because they definitely have weapons. I mean, if you're Garrett Riley, do you love the fact that you have Bryant Wesco? Yeah, you do. Guy's going to get open and get some big yak as well. Antonio Williams? Oh, yeah. Tyler Brown? Yep. Tristan Smith? Yep. Oh, by the way, TJ Moore? Yep. And now add in Christian Bentancur? Oh, yeah. And Adam Randall. I mean, this team has weapons. In the past with DJU, it used to be, well, we need to get better around the quarterback. The players around the quarterback weren't playing well. I think there's still some of that in the offensive line, but the weapons are definitely there. Is it a turning point or not? Or just like a temporary boost? Either way, this team needed something. And they've got another game that's a winnable game coming up this weekend. It is an away game, so you always have to worry about those. But the response is what mattered, and they responded with a win, and they started out strong. And I don't beat them up too bad for having kind of a sleepy second half, because Dabo was trying to get in other players. And as Dabo mentions, the world can either grind you up or shine you up. It's up to you how you're going to let it affect you. The team got its first ACC win. Now they need to go forward and get its second ACC win. And they need to do so by continuing to set the tone right out the gate. And we'll talk about it right here in the second segment on Locked on Clemson. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breath work, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how we craft every model. You can feel that Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts in just minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I love it because I can see graphs of exactly what my money is doing, and I can share it with my wife, and we can make decisions, smarter decisions throughout the month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. When the first play goes for a touchdown, everything changes. The momentum, the mood, the excitement, and the breath out of the stadium as well when you're playing an away game. Why would you start a game with a trick play? Well, really, I think Clemson did it because they did the research. They did the studying. They watched the film, and they saw how inconsistent and how undisciplined the Tar Heels defense was being. When you go back and you look at the Clemson game and the Tar Heel game, I mean, it is a nightmare what you're seeing from a Bill Belichick-led defense. They did not seem to want to press. They did not seem to want to play tight coverage. They did not want to hand check or play aggressive. They had a lot of cushion. They didn't even really seem to want to tackle in the secondary. And so all of that apprehension, including the fact that they kept their eyes in the backfield and extremely undisciplined with their assignments, allowed for them to fall victim to kind of a play action or a double pass trick play all game, really. But it started with the first play of the game and the trick play, the backwards pass to Antonio Williams, and then the forward pass down the field, 75 yards to TJ Moore for the touchdown. This showed confidence and a willingness to trust the players to execute. You know, when you play vanilla and you play conservative too much, it goes back to the fact that you really don't trust your players out there to execute at the level that you would need to do those more complicated plays. And Clemson hasn't been the best this year at building that trust with their coaching staff. But I like Garrett Riley's mindset. I like Dabo Swinney's mindset. Clemson oftentimes, and maybe this is a Dabo thing, but has had times where they've been scared to attack, it seems like. They just want to play extremely conservative. And again, it goes back to, do they really trust who they have? They used to, but it seems as if they get very apprehensive on the types of plays they can do or that they should do. In this game, they came to attack. They got out to a strong lead. They decided, in my opinion, to back off of Bill Belichick and play other players. It immediately shifted the momentum, and it really attacked what the Tar Heels' biggest weakness was. And you want to see that again, and that setting of the tone from the very beginning from Garrett Riley and the offense against Boston College this weekend. Far too often, Clemson's teams have been struggling to get things started. Good teams don't do that. It's going to still be an uphill battle to get this team into a realm of being a top offense like they were last season. You know, they've started off so bad, so poorly, that they have to rebound from that. To get into the top 25, right now they need about 450 yards per game. They're at 389 yards per game. So about 60 yards behind what Alabama is doing at 25th in the country. So 60 yards is not too bad, but that is kind of where that gap is. 60 yards is an extra, it could be an extra score, an extra field goal. And the points per game is down because of that 60 yards is lacking. So they need to find a way. Now, to get back into that, they're going to have to attack Boston College, who statistically is about where Clemson is right now. But what we've seen with Boston College is they got routed by Pittsburgh, and they got routed by Pittsburgh because they've been dealing with a lot of injuries. So we'll have to see what their availability report is going to be later on this week. But right now, this is another team that is setting up well for Clemson to be able to come out, set the tone, be aggressive, play to win the game. And it's not just about scoring a ton of points. You want them to act like they know what they're doing, act like they trust the different players. There's still a few things that you don't really like. We mentioned it on yesterday's show about how you didn't really like how they used Ian Shefflin in a jet sweep. You don't really like how they used Tristan Smith in a screen. There are certain plays that you're like, you know what? You have better players for those things. So Garrett Riley has to settle in and focus on the specific plays that are going to work for specific players. Guys like Christian Bentancur have earned the trust to be a few more plays called for them, their number to be called a little bit more. It goes back to kind of the mentality that I think creeped in during the DJU years of take what the defense gives you. There is a lot that can be said about that is the right way of attacking it, is take what the defense gives you. But there's also a mentality of that you'd like to see of, hey, we're going to run our plays and you just try and stop us and you're not going to be able to. Does Clemson have those players to do that anymore? Hard to say. We keep touting talent, but at the end of the day, the transfer portal has diluted a lot of college football powerhouses and spread the wealth of players around a little bit more. And so Clemson has to execute at a higher level to beat these closer games, to win these closer games. Garrett Riley called a very good first half of the game. Didn't really like what we saw in the second half. So I'd like to see a full game together. Clemson needs to start out confident and set that tone, though, no matter what. Dabo needs to trust Riley to do what he can do. And if they have to throw in another trick play, we talked about this last night too. They have to throw in another trick play. I'm okay with it. I don't want the team to turn into a gimmicky team. And you know what I mean by gimmicky? I kind of felt like Chad Morris was a gimmicky play caller. Once they got into better competition, what he was trying to do didn't work as much. Kind of the same thing as Oliver Purnell. They did that press, full court press a lot, and it worked against the average, the above average, the below average, but it really didn't work that well against the best. So the gimmicky plays are good, but you want to see a dominant win. I would love to see a dominant running game. I feel like there was a lot left to be desired from the rushing attack from Clemson. They have a great running back, as we know. They have a few guys that they can use. I want to see a big running game, but if the passing game gets you 400 yards and 4 touchdowns in one quarter, I'm not going to be complaining that the running game's kind of left in the dust as well. Antonio Williams, Bryant Wesco, TJ Moore, Adam Randall, all those guys, you know, they are Tristan Smith. They are guys that you can really build around, and Christian Bentancur, and really have a strong team. I mean, they averaged, like, in the first half, almost 9 yards per play. So if they can keep that kind of momentum going for the rest of the season, then maybe, just maybe, that 5% chance is a little bit better than what team rankings say for a 9-3 finish. All right, well, we're going to finish up the show talking about culture, leadership, and the young players that are putting forth a good effort to keep moving this team forward right here on Locked on Clemson. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Every day we make decisions, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Playing Prize Picks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, and you are officially in the game. I love how quick it is. You can make your lineup in under a minute, and it is so fun to follow the players while the game is going on. And the app is super easy to use. A lot of people are using Prize Picks. A lot of celebrities, a lot of players as well. It's so fun. So download the Prize Pick app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it is good to be right. Cade's leadership is one of the things that the team needs to trust. And when he plays poorly, it's hard to say that he's the guy that you can really anchor yourself around. So maybe there's some other players that can help with that. And as we mentioned, Garrett Riley talking about, having all these weapons. One of those weapons that I think can help Cade's leadership and confidence and presence in the locker room is Christian Bentancur. Because the thing is it's all about what you do on Saturdays. If you are doing really good in practice, but then have terrible Saturdays over and over, your teammates kind of can see that and sense that, and they start to not buy into some of your rah-rah speeches that you talk about. And I mentioned to you that I'd like to see less of Cade rah-rah. I'd like to see Cade more or less do it on the practice field and in the game. Christian Bentancur is one of those additional weapons that can be a safety valve for Clemson. So it's not always Antonio Williams, because Cade needs other guys he can trust, and he should have enough. He really does. And he should, and he does. But adding Christian Bentancur to the mix puts a guy who looks like he could be a future NFL tight end in this mold. And he has a strong work ethic from what we're hearing. Cade talked about how much he's lifting, how much he's studying after practice. Cade mentioned that Bentancur's work ethic is contagious to the rest of the team. And it doesn't matter who is taking that kind of ownership and leadership for the team, because it really is whoever's to your left and to your right. And the guys that are constantly in the football operations center, in the gym, in the weight room, in the film room, doing those things are going to spread to their peers, regardless of how old they are. The team, I believe, believes in each other. They trust each other and they care about each other. I really do believe that. About the only guy that you probably could say doesn't fit that mold would be Shelton Lewis. And some of Shelton Lewis's problems are the fact that I think he was hyped up in the fall and then really wasn't used when the season started, like what to the level of hype that he was getting. And I do think that Clemson needs to be a little bit more cautious with how they do things like that, because you hype up guys and you put them in front of the media, you give them spotlight opportunities, you talk really, really high about them, and then you don't use them. And it may be for a good reason that you didn't use Shelton Lewis. A lot of people said that they felt as if it wasn't that big of a problem because he was struggling to cover out in the open field. But it is a problem because of depth and having a player that knows what they're doing. Leadership, to me, again, doesn't matter how old you are. Someone like Bentancur, who's fighting through, still coming in, putting in max effort, means a lot for the rest of this team. When the team cares, it can that kind of motivation can go with you when you go on the road. And this is another road game coming up. You know, Clemson has some tough road games ahead. Boston College is not an easy one. Louisville is not an easy one, and South Carolina is not an easy one. So they're going to have to be very careful on those road games. But the brothership and the leadership and the togetherness is going to get them through. And that effort when nobody is watching. You know, I saw a post today from Triple H talking about all the things that Cody Rhodes does behind the scenes that nobody really sees. And, you know, they see this guy who's kind of the face of the franchise, face of the business. But he does so much behind the scenes for himself, for his family, and for Make-A-Wish, and for WWE and everything, that his schedule is just packed. Not a lot of time off. But it's that kind of work ethic towards your ultimate goal that will get you through and ultimately show through, and I think eventually pay off in the long term. But it is a team game, so it can't just be Christian Bentancur doing this. It has to be the rest of the team. And so that's why it's good to kind of be contagious there. Another thing, too, is we talked about Jeremiah Alexander in the preseason in the fall about his work ethic. And it's good to see that they've kind of come out of their trance and decided to put him out on the field. Clemson ran, to me, a lot better when they had 3 linebackers out there. I don't like the 4-2-5 with this current roster that you have. And now with Shelton Lewis out, you have even less depth in that nickel position. So I would say you need to see more of the 4-3 or the 3-4 and have Jeremiah Alexander out there. I really do. I don't think you're losing too much. I think that this is the kind of guy you need there in the mix because he's experienced, he's senior, and he gets in on the football plays when he needs to. Maybe he's not perfect, but to me, Clemson's defense is built for that 3 linebacker type of schemes. The effort finally matched up with the win and loss column and got him a win. And they should be able to carry this towards Boston College. If they win Boston College, they'll be back to a 3-3 team, a 500, and then they'll face off against, I believe, SMU at home to be able to try to continue the winning streak. I think a lot of people are worried about the Florida State game, which we were before the season, so it's no change there. A lot of people are worried about the Friday night Louisville game too, and the South Carolina game, of course, and then the Duke game. So there's still a lot of very difficult matchups coming up this season that Clemson's team is going to have to work through. But it's just one day at a time, really, at this point. So, hey, I appreciate everyone being a part of the show. As always, you can keep tuning in. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any more episodes after this. And you can go back and listen to some past episodes as well. And also, if you're new to Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview show. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation, a longtime two-time AP Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts like myself. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. All right, hey.